This video is all about why we've chosen to build an Upper Hutt.
And why you should too. Never a question of like, where am I going to have kids and buy a house?
The best custard squares in the world. Hey, I'm Josh, a builder here in New Zealand. Let me introduce you to that build up there. Previously, we went unconditional on this sloping site. We started building retaining walls and moved straight into landscaping the section. And today, we'll tell you why we picked this particular site. Coming up, we'll share how we chose to settle down here in Upper Hutt. We'll break down why we love this city and stick around to the end of the video where we'll head to site after being away for the last 2 weeks at a friend's wedding overseas. Should we build a home here?
Upper Hutt's got some awesome things to offer. In the weekend, if we don't have something to do, we'll head up Kaitoki, we'll go for a walk, we'll find an area to sit and have a lunch. We love the pool, we were there last night. It's awesome to be able to have something like literally 5 minutes down the road where the kids are just like in heaven. And then we can go to Brewtown. What an epic spot. It is the capital of craft beer. It's also the people, honestly. Like, families here, friends are here, we've both gone to school here. So you have like lifelong networks here. And then for me, as I started a building company, it made sense to stay in an area where I already had a network and a reputation. And then the more you do in that area, the more that network grows. Yeah, like 70 homes in the Hutt Valley now. As like a pretty cool achievement. Yeah, and we like get to look out over this and at least half of them are out there.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh? And then I met Nicole. And then there's definitely no moving after that.
Well, not out of Silverstream. Imagine me out of Silverstream.
I know.
The vibe of this area is that they're very like community based. Like the whole of Silverstream is centered around the school, which kind of shows that we're really like family based kind of, like we're a young area, I would say. A lot of young people moving into the area.
A lot of families.
A lot of families.
Like if we expand not just Silverstream, I think
Upper
Hutt is an amazing place to raise a family. I think the thing in reflection that I love the most is that whether it's Tocha Park or Silverstream or one of the other amazing suburbs, is they all feel like a community. And I think that's because they're all centered around a school. And if you think about families that send their kids to school, they've decided that that's where they want to raise their family. They love the city for the same reasons we do.
Like there's so many green spaces, there's so like parks, walks. I mean the local swimming pools just had a massive revamp.
We have no hesitation sending our kids down the road on their scooters to the shop or around the block. We grew up in Upper Hutt riding bikes. You remember riding bikes around the streets?
Yeah, and I'd go to the dairy and buy a Milky Bar.
Yeah, and same. I was off to the dairy, $2 mix bag. Man, back in my day, used to get way more than this. Man, remember how many lollies you used to be able to get? I went to school over there, St. Pat's Silverstream, shout out. This is where I went to college. And my oldest boy is going there next year, leading the charge.
So we're just down the road from that, so they'll be able to walk to school, they'll be able to walk home from school. Choosing this site not only worked for us from a building perspective that we could build this nice house, it works for us because it works for our kids.
And on that note, can I remind you that if you're watching these videos and you haven't subscribed, you're not really helping us out.
I mean, like the view for us is like every little area that you look at is like somewhere where you grew up, somewhere where you did something. I am a third generation Silverstream person. My grandparents immigrated to New Zealand from Holland and both ended up in Silverstream. So not only was my immediate family in Silverstream, all of my cousins and my grandparents and my aunties and uncles were all in Silverstream. I think my draw to being in Silverstream is that it feels like my home. It just feels like my community. There's no way that I would go to the supermarket and not know at least 3 people. Sometimes feels a bit suffocating and claustrophobic claustrophobic, but for the most part I love it. I mean, when you go overseas, when you travel, you go to a bar or you go to a pub and there's no way you're going to know anyone there, which is freeing, but then you come home and it's like, these are my people, this is my town, I know literally everything about it. Like, there wouldn't be a walkway or a street that I wouldn't know in Silver Stream. I mean, the area has grown a bit since I was young, but the dairy owner's the same, still says hi Nicole when I walk in. I worked at New World Silver Stream. It has moved location, but when it was on the street front, I was in the deli for years and years. I grew up going to the bakery, the best custard squares literally in the world. I've tried them everywhere.
The best custard squares in the world.
And savouries.
I worked at Macca's. I had a little stint at Macca's, and I actually only just told Josh about this because I only worked there for 2 weeks and hated it. And it's like his epitome of having a job.
Yeah, and even all the places that I look at, like Riverstone, all the way down to Toach Park, where I grew up. So I've lived in Upper Hutt most of my life. Grew up in Toach Park, went to play centre, kindy and primary school there. This is my old school. It looks pretty much the same. That used to be a big old wooden playground. Went to Maidstone Intermediate in central Upper Hutt, and to be honest, I had an epic time growing up in this city. I loved roaming the streets, riding my bike, building forts down at the river, exploring the hills behind Toach Park. As I got a bit older, got a mountain bike and was just always out and about. In my teenage years, got into skateboarding, went to the odd party or two, just one or two, never really had any drinks. The people that live here are awesome. And I think that's the thing that makes the city. It's full of a bunch of like-minded family and friends. Both of us have travelled the world separately. You went to Greece?
Yeah, I went to Europe.
Yeah, and I went to North America. Two very opposite places to travel, especially now. I love North America. I worked in a summer camp in Seattle, and then I made my way over to Ottawa in Canada. Shout out to the Canadians there. I left on one-way tickets, came home and decided Upper Hutt's where it's at. This is where I would love to work and raise a family.
Yeah, I went to Europe originally because that's where my family's from. Motherland is Holland for us. And
Go
so
to the Dutchies.
I ended up in Greece. I lived there for just over a year. But the whole time you're there, you're just like, New Zealand's home. I'm definitely going home. I'm not staying here. I'm not going to end up in Europe. I'm going to end up back in New Zealand. And then you kind of come back and it's a little bit depressing, eh?
Yeah, it can be.
It's a little bit sad that you're OE and you're your youth is over.
And you're back in your hometown.
Yeah.
But I think there's something familiar and comfortable about it.
Yeah, there was never a question of where am I going to have kids and buy a house. It was always going to be Upper Hutt.
It's Tuesday the 10th of June. We've just got back from Canada, so been away at Nicole's best friend's wedding.
Yep, shout out Renee and Shay.
Who were actually the ones who helped us with the design.
Yeah.
Shay's idea was that you wanted to create a journey from the driveway all the way down to the front door, and that you wanted the house to tell you a story as you were coming in. While Shay's input was overall vision and feel, Renee's input was some of the micro details. Instead of putting the doors here, put the doors here. Which way are they swinging? Thinking about putting a second loo in for 4 teenage boys. And again, that critical feedback was invaluable for us helping to shape the final design. So yeah, double shout out to Shay and Renee, Mr. and Mrs. Tracy.
So we went away for 12 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always a little bit scary leaving. Not only did we leave our kids, but we left our smallest baby, our building company. Because
as well as building this house, we've got a bunch of other ones on the go in the hut. We've got frames here, finally. Real exciting to have a digger on site and finally be cutting earth. Guys, guess what? In 1 hour, we're pouring a slab. just going to jump in right here and do a bit of a shameless plug for my building company. You've heard why I think Upper Hutt's a cool place. You know it would be even cooler if you build a house in Upper Hutt and I build it for you. I've built over 75 homes in the Hutt now. I would love to do yours. Click the link below, hit me up. We'll guide you through the process start to finish.
Leaving is always like a little bit of there's a flurry of activity because we had milestones in mind to get to before we left.
Yeah, I always say it's like any trip. Let's say you take a week off. It's like a 2-to-1 tax. Like for the 1 week you take off, 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after is usually a bit hectic. But we do use those lines in the sand of like, we're going away at the end of May and this is where everything needs to be. Not just this job, but the other 8 we've got on the go. It was actually so refreshing to have a break from site and then come back and see the snow-capped mountains. I think it was good that everything was just a little bit settled. There's still so much work to do there. It's an overwhelming, huge project. But just having that little moment of standing there looking at the hills reminded me of why we're doing this.
This is our walkway where this concrete ends is this is kind of the laundry, right?
In there, down there.
Down there.
Yeah, but you can see the nail on there, and then it will line up with there. It's like walkway the whole way.
Yeah. So this is kind of utility area, the bins, the boots, the muddy boots, the soccer gear.
Yeah, and like in there would be like a little bit of storage for like wheelie bins or firewood. Not quite as deep as I thought it was going to be. Our heat pump guy real early on identified that if we had the heat pump motors in here, it'd be like a feedback loop where the heat pump motor blows the cold air into the house and sucks it back into itself. So we're putting the heat pump motors up there, but we've just built this beautiful wall and we don't want heat pump trunking up the front of it. Luckily, I caught that in the nick of time just before we started backfilling. Yeah.
Got the pipe through. And then the heat pump motor won't be kind of in our walkway area as well. So not only for functionality but for looks.
Yeah, true.
Crazy that that's 300 plants.
360.
Rock climber.
Man, the planting's so epic, eh?
It looks so good. So while we were away, the planting went in, and Katie is one of the very few people that we trust to be on our site without us needing oversight. So she just said, hey, I'm going to order 300 plants. Any say on what they are? And we're like, nope, we trust you.
So we're putting in today a whole lot of things that are really hardy. These are Cortaderia fulvida, which is a native summer flowering tohi. It's sort of basically a small, the exotic pampas grass is what people think of when they think of tois, but this is actually a little native one and it doesn't get anywhere near as big. It gets sort of 1.5 metres high. Still has those really cool plumes all through the summer, but it's really, really good on this site. In fact, when I first arrived here, it was the thing I noticed the most was, even though it was sort of cleared, these guys come up and they love colonising the site first. They're super hardy, and the seed just kind of disperses far and wide. So we've gone back to these. Around here we've got like a wild manuka. These are ones that will actually stay a little bit smaller because what we don't want is to block this magnificent view down the valley. And these all have lovely kind of pink toned flowers to add a wee bit of seasonal interest to our Tuitui Hill. Carokia contoniesta, and one of my favourite ones is called Purapura or Carpodetta serratus prostrata. This guy kind of is a rambling ground cover, so once again keeping things nice and low, all native, and they should do really well on this site. They love this kind of clay soil and they can handle a lot of wind, and obviously we're going to get a fair amount of wind up here.
So 360 plants have gone in while we're in Canada, and we're stoked. We got there and like just seeing the bank all kind of like planted in natives is awesome. and it's just exciting to be like, oh, one bit is finished. Like there is a completely finished area on our site, which is really exciting. Yeah, and it's like seeing areas starting to come to life, like parts of the landscaping plan that were just kind of like scribbles and coloured pencil on a piece of paper are now like on site and finished.
Nicole and I have this thing where we believe fantails are a positive omen. And so the day we came to site, it was flooded with fantails. For us, it's a silly little thing that's like, hey, we're on the right track, we're doing the right thing. And so
we're where we're meant to be.
Yeah, and so right now the fact that the fantail's here is just like, it kind of is like, we're on the right track still. Hey.
Yeah, and he's hanging out in the plants that we put in.
I know, and imagine when he brings all his friends.
So good.
We love fantails. We love looking for positive signs and the positive energy and things. And I think that's the thing about this site, is you can't help but stand here and look out at that view and feel the positive energy here, eh babe?
Yeah.
When we were looking at a house that suited our needs as a blended family, we looked at a bunch of existing houses on the market. Every time we're like, cool, but I want to change this or I want to do that. We knew we had to build from scratch, eh?
Well, we're the type of people that always were going to change an existing house. And we were like, if we're going to do that, we should really just build something that we want from the get-go.
Yeah, and we actually had an offer on that section over there, and then that fell through.
We've got plans for it. If you want to build something, hit us up. If you want to be our neighbours,
yeah,
come to the neighbourhood.
We'll be able to like throw stuff at each other.
We could have a zip line. You want to come be our buds? You can come to my wine house.
Well, if everyone put in $1, we could probably raffle it off. Imagine that, a $10 house raffle. So our house is going to go there, and this is where it's going to meander down into the bush. We actually have like a couple of thousand square meters of bush down in there. There's a tree swing, there's a fort, there's tracks. It's pretty epic, eh?
Yeah.
I think the thing is, we didn't even realize that until we'd kind of like managed to get our head around that.
Yeah, so you can kind of see there's a clearing where this will go down, and then just behind the silt fencing is another track that goes down into the bush. Already, like previous owners or previous people that have hung out in the surrounding forest have put up little like sheds and shacks and swings and fun things down in there.
It's cool. We want to add to it.
Yeah.
We want to see the boys explore down there.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, like you can imagine them setting up a little hut and sleeping down there, and they'll love it.
Yeah.
There'll be multiple tracks down into there and out of there, but so from various aspects of the property, you'll be able to get down into the native forest.
If you're loving these videos but you want to know more and specifically want stuff that's going to help you with your building project, jump on our mailing list below. We would love to send you some extra information.
I'm getting a reputation for being a bit woo-woo, I think.
Are you, babe?
I believe that we are vibrational beings and that we are made up of atoms that vibrate inside of us. And so is the earth, and basically every living thing is, and the earth is a living thing. And
you know how people say, I can feel the vibe?
Yeah, the vibration.
Yeah.
So the energy of yourself and like the energy of the earth can be
harmonized, balanced.
In balance, but you won't get that by standing on concrete or
wearing shoes all day
in your shoes. So you have to connect. You have to connect with nature. Which is why I feel so like at peace in the forest or on a beach. When you go on holiday and you finally take your shoes off, and it's like you can finally relax.
It's like all that like energy that your body's been holding up gets neutralized into the ground.
Yeah, and you can actually get fake ones. Like you can actually get mats that you can stand on, but we don't live in a high rise in the middle of America, so we can connect with nature here ourselves.
Right, we're gonna go.
I can't get out of here.
After school or something, and we.
Guys, I've been reading all the comments and it seems like I'm creating my own little sign-off squad. Maybe we could call it Grounding Squad or Woo Woos Are Us. there's nothing wrong with being a little bit spiritual and a little bit like into vibes and into positivity. So thanks for being with me.
Yo, sign off squad, you've made it to the end of another video. Whether you live here or not, I hope you agree with me now that Upper Hutt is a pretty epic city. For me, it's been real special to grow up here, to travel, and then choose to come back here to have a family. And I know it's the same for Nicole. And I think it's a really important thing to point out, is that you get to choose where you put your roots down. And so be very purposeful about the choices you're making in your life. And also think about this, the decision to not make a decision is a decision. So if you just bumble by, not happy with your scenario, not happy with where you're living or your community, or not feeling like you're at your best, but you don't do anything about that, your decision is to just keep the status quo the same. And that could be true whether it's where you live or the job you're in or the type of work you're doing. For me, I know that being purposeful about the decisions I make, building a house on a hill, living in Upper Hutt, running my building company a certain way, the way we make these videos, those are all purposeful decisions. Just because it's a purposeful decision doesn't make it easy, doesn't mean it naturally clicks. Sometimes making a purposeful decision is really hard, and all the close people around you will be like, oh, why are you doing that? And that's nothing to do with you, that's to do with them and the fear of you changing. But don't worry, the people that really love and care about you will be pumped when you make a purposeful decision. It was actually so refreshing to have a break from sight and then come back and see the snow-capped mountains. I think it was good that everything was just a little bit settled and the fantail, and I was at peace, and there's still so much work to do there. It's an overwhelming, huge project. But just having that little moment of standing there looking at the hills reminded me of why we're doing this. I have no doubt in my mind that if you've watched all the way to the end of this video, you have already clicked the subscribe button, so thank you very much for that. Remember, we're dropping these videos every Saturday, 5 p.m. The next one is gonna be a goodie.